Today's review is brought to you by Glutino, the only gluten-free chocolate-covered pretzels that you can buy at movie theaters because no one else wants to sell them. I wanted something kind of sweet and salty while I was at the movie theater, and we'll get to talking about the movie in a second, but it wouldn't be a post-Geekout reaction if I didn't start by just talking about some random crap that had nothing to do with anything that I just needed to get off my chest. But AMC had stopped selling chocolate-covered peanut M&Ms or anything else that's kind of like sweet and salty. This was the only thing they had, so I was like, oh, I like chocolate-covered pretzels. Gluten-free chocolate-covered pretzels are awful. Do not buy these. But also, don't sell these in movie theaters. This is the loudest goddamn snack I've ever had. I don't want to bring this up real quick because this is the only time in my life I've ever eaten something in a movie theater and people had to tell me, shh. Because A, this is the bag. Try doing that in a movie where there's just dead silence for large portions of it. And this is the actual food. Maybe it's not as loud outside of my head as it is inside my head. But it sounds like I just threw glass inside of a wood chipper.
Oh, speaking of glass.
That was not actually intentional. Let me get these away from me before I end up just having to expel them all from my body halfway through this review. Yes! Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
I'm Michelle.
And we are talking about glass in addition to reviewing movie theater snacks. That could be a fun show in and of itself. But yes. So this, oh god, that's stuff. Hold on, I have to manually suck that all out of my fillings. Alright, there we go. Good. Man, those are not good. So, anywho, our dog really wants those, and I don't think those are healthy for you for multiple reasons.
Yes, you don't want those, Peach.
You're a dog. You need gluten.
You also don't need chocolate. That could kill you.
I think that lack of gluten is slowly killing me. So yes, anyway, oh my god, why did I think that was a good gag to start off with? Now I've got that taste in my mouth for the rest of this review. So we are talking about Glass, which is the finale to the M. Night Shyamalan superhero trilogy, whatever you want to call it.
Like, now, what were the other movies about?
First one was Unbreakable. Did you ever see Unbreakable?
No.
I saw that. It came out 19 years ago, and I freaking loved it. I actually think it is his best film, like even better than Sixth Sense. Granted, he's really only got 2 films that anyone would even dare remotely refer to as his best films. But yeah,
What was the second one?
The second one was Split, which just came out 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Now, I will admit, I did not see Split. People have told me it's actually good, though.
I've heard a lot of controversy about it.
Really?
Like, the way it depicts people with mental illnesses.
Yeah, I can understand that. But yeah, I did not see Split. I never got a chance to see it in the theater, and we've been so busy that I didn't get to see it before this. However, I think that might actually have helped this film, because there were a lot of times in here which I was like, I don't know this thing that they're referring to. I'm just going to assume it's something in Split, and I'm just going to move on with it. So it kept me from questioning a lot of stuff in this movie. But when this film began, I actually was kind of enjoying it, and I went into this thing very hesitant. I will go ahead and put that on the table.
Yes, like, M. Night Shyamalan has not a very good reputation.
Even though I love Unbreakable...
Like, that was like old Shyamalan.
19 years ago.
That was old Shyamalan.
Man, I saw so many people excited for this film because they're like, oh man, Unbreakable and Split? Oh, coming together. Oh, we've been waiting for that Unbreakable sequel for so long. I was like, yeah, in the time you were waiting for that, M. Night Shyamalan became a really bad filmmaker and Bruce Willis stopped giving a crap.
Yeah.
Like, completely. Like, this isn't multiplying negatives here, man. This is not going to turn out to be good. So I will admit, I went into this with a chip on my shoulder. I was like, okay, I don't think this is probably going to be good, but I'll give it a shot. Because, I mean, hey, he, M. Night Shyamalan, he didn't write, but he directed this found footage film, The Visit, I believe, that people have said is like, it's okay, it's not bad, which for M. Night these days is actually really good. Mm-hmm. And Split, it's got it's got fairly decent reviews. You're like, okay, it was actually not bad. We enjoyed that twist ending. That was actually pretty darn good in there. Reminds us a little bit of that old Shyamalan magic. So it was like, okay, maybe he's on the upswing, but a lot of people looked at that and was like, yeah, he's back. And I'm like, that doesn't get you out of movie jail. That does not make up for, like, the years of crap that you did. So I went into this like, okay, no one wants anybody out there to fail, man. And I don't want to sit through a bad movie. We've been doing that this entire month. I'm done with bad movies. I was ready to move on to good stuff now. So I didn't want to go there and just be forced to sit there for 2 hours during a bad movie. And I want M. Night to make a comeback. Like, no one wants to see, like, a guy just spiral down and fail that badly. It just becomes sad. It's not fun anymore. So it's like, yeah, man, I want him to pull it out. But I have no expectations and no hope for this thing. So if it's good, it's going to be a big surprise. And I got to admit, when this thing began, it reminded me of Unbreakable. Like, when this begins, it is focusing on Bruce Willis, and it's now been 19 years later, and he is now working in this store that sells security equipment, and he's working there with his son, who was actually the kid who played his son in the first Unbreakable film, and he's actually a pretty decent actor. He's actually one of the better actors in this entire film, I gotta admit. And they have basically just been going out there over the past, 19 years, him going out in this raincoat that he wore at the end of the first film, just stopping crimes where he can find them. Because his superpowers are that he can't be injured, he's stronger than a normal person, and also if he touches someone, he can kind of see stuff about them.
Like X-ray vision, or
no,
like what they've experienced?
Like psychic vision.
Okay.
Yeah. So like he basically he finds where crimes are happening, and they just walks around like bumping into people until he's like, oh hey, that thing. And now he's hunting down this group of individuals. It's kind of hard to give them a name. The person's actual name is Kevin, but he's got 19 other personalities inside of him, and they call themselves the Horde. Which I will admit, when the ending credits came up, it just started listing all these names, and there was nobody referenced on them. It's like, what the heck? Did you forget to put the actor's name? And then in the middle of this huge chunk, it just said Jamie. What's the guy's name? Professor X, whatever his name is. I just said him. I was like, oh, it's actually kind of a cool way of giving him reference, of giving him credit here. But they refer to themselves as the Horde. And inside of them, there's a lot of weird ones. Like, there's an old grumpy guy. There's, some guy who is a professor. There's this very uptight, proper lady who, she's kind of like the mastermind of it all. And she's kind of like the most evil one of them because she's the one kind of commanding the others. But they are basically all working together to find sacrifices for this other personality called the Beast. And the Beast almost has superhuman strength. He can actually climb on walls by digging his fingers into walls so much. It actually is kind of creepy at times watching him move around. And so he's kind of the big threat of it all. And basically this thing begins with the two of them having to go up against each other. And in all honesty, it was pretty good here in the beginning. I was actually okay, you know what? There's still some awkward dialogue. You know, M. Night, he's kind of known for awkward dialogue and people not talking the way that normal people talk. But, it's not nearly as bad as it normally is in his film. So it's to the point where I can overlook it, where I can get past all that. And it's shot pretty well. And Bruce Willis is even kind of trying in here.
He's trying.
Which for him is something. And James McAvoy, that's his name. He's actually great in here. Him going from personality to personality, man, he's so good at that. I was actually really getting into this. Then it gets to the point in which they capture these two individuals and they take them to a mental asylum, and there is a doctor there who says, I specialize in a personality disorder of people who believe that they are like comic book characters. It's like, all right, well, that was a thing, and, that was, I get it. I get what you're doing here, because M. Night's whole thing with Unbreakable was, oh, what if superheroes were in the real world? And this was 19 years ago, before we got a ton of that stuff everywhere. So it actually was really groundbreaking back then. Back then, it was actually pretty darn impressive. However, this ain't back then. And M. Night still thinks it is back then. M. Night almost feels like he has no idea that this superhero movie craze happened. And this isn't even a thing going on right now. This is a thing that happened, 19 years ago in 2000 when the X-Men started up. One of the things that made this so impressive when Unbreakable came out is that it was right there. It was that perfect zeitgeist where like it was at that exact moment when everybody just started talking about superheroes, and he got this film out right then. This movie is coming out 19 years later of nothing but number one hit after number one hit of a superhero movie coming out, and he still is giving a lecture on what comic books are. It's like, brother, we all know this.
That reminds me of, like, Independence Day 2. Like, that came out, like, way too late, and everybody already got their big action movie hype.
Oh, I see what you're saying, but it is worse than that.
Oh, no.
Because Independence Day was just, we're going to have big explosions. Like, yeah, we kind of have big explosions and plot in all these other movies, so we don't really care about what you're doing now. This is him trying to be so smart. It is him thinking that he is going to blow people's minds with this stuff. And it's like, no one gives a crap about this. No, dude, have you not been to the movies in the last 19 years? Like, here's the thing. We don't just have superhero movies. We have entire cinematic universes telling entire storylines from the comics, taking characters and building them up from one movie to the next and interacting with each other to create this established universe. And, brother, we know how this, like, even the people out there who don't read comics, have never picked up a comic in their life, they know all this stuff by now. And he's coming in here with explanations about comics that really makes it sound like he's read one comic in his life. And he instantly was like, I know everything about comics in here. And I will admit, when the first Unbreakable came out, what basically happened in that, since you never watched it, is that Bruce Willis, he's in a train wreck, but he's the only survivor and he has no scratches on him. And then he runs into this guy, Samuel L. Jackson, who he has a disease where basically his bones are incredibly fragile. Like, too much pressure on him can just break a bone. Mm-hmm. So he's developed his mind a lot, and he basically escaped by reading comics his entire life. But he's developed this theory that, you know what, comics might actually have been inspired by something. Like, there might actually be people out there who have these powers, and, you know, the myths and rumors about them kind of eventually became, like, our modern-day culture of comic books. And in the first movie, it was like, okay, that's not that bad. But every now and again, he would go into explanations about comics. And it was like, it really doesn't feel like you read comics, but this was 19 years ago, and I was desperate for anybody out there to acknowledge comics as being like a thing. Because that's another thing, is that 19 years ago, I was thirsty for anything comic-like.
Yeah, it's like the geekery in movies and cinema and media like exploded over the last like 2 decades.
Man, anytime that I see someone now these days trying to be like, I don't want this person in my fandom, and I was like, brother, when I was your age, I would have taken anybody in my fandom. It's like, unless you're like just, I don't know, like a bigot or a bully or someone like that, then yeah, stay the fuck out of the fandom. Yeah. But if it's like, oh, well, this person's new to the fandom, so they don't matter as much as me. Shut the fuck up, man. I remember what it was like when I was getting my ass kicked on a daily basis at school because you read comics, you nerd. I would have killed to live in a world where it's like, you read comics? Oh, okay, that's cool. Can I start reading comics with you? Man, you have no idea how lucky you are. But back 19 years ago when Unbreakable came out, yeah, I looked at it, and I remember even, like, as a kid, I looked at it, and I was like, it kind of feels like M. Night hasn't read that many comics, and it's kind of making a movie out, but I don't care. I still don't get what you're doing, M. Night. I'm still right there with you. I'm still right there on board with you.
You mentioned, like, well, these characters, like, these people think that they're comic book characters, so it made me think, like, maybe not just superheroes, but also, like, Garfield or something. Like, there's this guy who, like, kicks dogs off tables and goes, I hate Mondays.
It's kind of a stretch, but I'll take it. All right, sure. So, that was what I was like 19 years ago. And then when you watch this movie, all the explanations are worse. Like, all his explanations about, like, how comic books tie into the real world are so much worse than they were 19 years ago. And our culture has now moved past that, past even where it was 19 years ago when it comes to, like, understandings of comic books. I was like, oh, man, the exact thing that you needed to be here went like this. This does not work anymore. There are moments in here in which the professor, the person who's in charge of the psychological center, this mental institution, she is talking about comic books like she has to explain the very premise of what comic books are. It's like, yeah, we know. And, like, there was another moment in which, that it just cracked me up so hard, in which you have like the supporting characters of each of these people there. You have the son of Bruce Willis. You have Sam Jackson's mother, who actually looks younger than Sam Jackson. I kept thinking it was his sister. It wasn't until flashbacks that I was like, is that's supposed to be his mom? What? So the makeup job on that is awful. But then there's also the girl from Split, who was the one who escaped because Kevin, the real personality inside, actually kind of developed emotions for her, and she developed feelings for him. So all three of them are coming to this psychiatrist telling her, "Oh, you have to let them out. There's nothing wrong with them." And she's like, Are you kidding me? Have you ever been to a comic book convention? They sell teen TV shows there." I was like, what the fuck does that mean? What are you...
Clearly you've never been to a comic book convention.
It made me think of like 19 years ago, before the internet was the thing that it is now. If you went to a comic book convention, you would see people selling bootleg VHS
yeah,
tapes.
That's right.
Yeah, you remember that? And it makes me think, I think M. Night has not been to a comic book convention in 19 fucking years, and he hasn't realized the internet has changed a lot of this stuff around. Also, what the hell is a teen TV show? Are you talking about like the CW? Or are you talking about the best I can think of is that he's trying to say, oh, they're trying to sell these properties off to like CW to turn them into a TV show for I think I am reaching hard to come up with an explanation for what that means. But there's an even worse moment. There's an even worse moment than that, in which Samuel Jackson's mother, who she has always tried to understand her son's love of comics and stuff, but Sam Jackson, he wants the world to see superheroes. He wants them to realize we're here and we exist and we're a real thing. So he wants to have this big showdown between the Horde and the Overseer, which is what everyone is calling Bruce Willis. And all I could think was, I don't think M. Night knows what Overseer means. I don't think he knows the historical connotations of that. If you don't know what that means, I can understand how it sounds like a cool thing. It's not a cool thing if you know what it actually is.
No, even if you don't know what it is, the name Overseer sounds like an evil, villain.
Sounds like a villain.
Yeah, it sounds like a villain just watching over everybody and planning his next evil scheme. It's like...
So there's this new building that's been built. And there's a moment in which they're looking at a magazine that's talking about the tallest building in all of Philadelphia. And it says, a modern Marvel. And the font on Marvel is the same font on Marvel Comics.
Oh, no.
Oh, brother, come on. Oh.
And then they cut to Washington, D.C., and D.C. is in the D.C. look.
That would have been something. But no, I looked at that and I was like, that's actually probably the most clever thing you've done with this whole comic book thing in here. But he wants them to have a big fight at this building where all the news cameras are. And there's a moment where the mother in there goes, he always used to talk to me about how in a limited edition, they would have this thing called the Showdown. I went, Showdown isn't a comic book term. That's just a word. That's not...
The show has been used for way
That's just
so many
a word.
Things,
It's not a reference to anything in here. And then she goes, but the thing that also got me is she goes, he always used to talk about how in the limited edition.
Which limited edition?
The limited edition what?
Yeah.
That's like saying he always used to talk about the fast. The fast runner, the fast rabbit.
He always
tortoise.
used to talk about the super.
He always mentioned that one day there'd be the big. That's just an adjective. It's not a noun. You need a noun after the adjective in there.
He always mentioned.
Oh my god! This is so a guy who. This sums up the problems I've had with M. Night's films for years now, is that it's very clear this is a guy who doesn't know what he's talking about, but man, is he convinced he knows what he's talking about. Whoo, boy. Oh my god, this was... And again, I know that if you're not a big comic nut, you might not, have a big problem. You might be like, okay, I guess it's just some nerd shit that he's talking about. But I've seen, big comic book nerds out there like really applauding this. And I'm like, dude, don't, no. This would be like, we watched Gotti a few days ago. This would be like if Italian Americans were applauding like the depiction in Gotti. It's like, you can do better than this. In fact, you have done better than this for 19 goddamn years. We don't have to do this anymore.
Maybe it's like a sympathy clap. Like
No, it's still, honestly, it's still to this day just stuns me how many people, and comic book fans, I love you comic book fans, but it still stuns me to this day how many comic book fans are just, they said that thing I know! Yeah! It's like, I remember those days! I remember 20 goddamn years ago when I would have taken any scrap you could have given me. Dude, we have a buffet out there now. Stop picking through the trash for leftovers here, okay? This ain't what it should be at this point. This has not matured in 19 goddamn years when the entire pop culture community has. It is really just disturbing to me how it's almost like M. Night wrote this script right after he finished Unbreakable and then decided not to change a bit of it after 19 years have gone by. Like, wow, dude, for real? All right, fine, whatever. Oh my God. It's really, I'm sorry to get that off my chest, but it really was just starting to me that I was like, who the fuck is buying any of this? But that's just me talking as a comic book fan. Talking as a moviegoer, this is still really bad. This is bad. And part of it does have to do with them constantly bringing up the comic books. Not because I'm like upset as a comic book fan, but because I'm like, yeah, we get it. Yes, they think they're comic book characters. We know. So they believe in comic book characters. Yes, we know. We have established this.
It's like, do you know what comic books are?
Allow me to explain it. Like, are you auditioning for a panel at Comic-Con? Are you trying to sell a book right now? What? It really does just hammer you over the head over and over. Like, take a shot every single time that they say comic books in here. It's like, I freaking get it already. Move on. And the big appeal of this is we're going to see these characters. We're going to see that guy from Unbreakable. We haven't seen him in 19 years. And you ain't going to see him for another 19 years. This movie, it starts off and it's focusing on him. It's like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Okay, I'm enjoying this. And as soon as they get to the mental institution, they separate them into different rooms, and then you get a little bit of each of them separated individually, and then it's just focusing on Mr. Glass and on the Horde. And Bruce Willis is like gone for like half an hour of this movie. And it's like, wasn't this kind of like the big pitch of this thing? And Mr. Glass was like the main guy from Unbreakable alongside Bruce Willis, and they have a long interaction, and Mr. Glass wants Bruce Willis to fight the Horde, and we kind of want that to happen, and it's, okay, all right, no, we're not even going to focus on Bruce Willis at all. Like, when he popped back up, it was one of those, like, oh, right, you're in this movie. And he's one of the main guys in here. And man, I just keep thinking about how, the Avengers, freaking Infinity War, Civil War, even Justice League took all these different characters and were able to, like, balance their screen time so incredibly well. And this film has 3 people in it, and we forget one of them is in the movie because he's gone for so long. Like, you don't care about them at all. Like, facing off, it doesn't feel like this big epic thing because this movie forgets to really focus on them after a point. It just becomes the, like, Glass and the Horde show after a while. And again, James McAvoy's, man, I hope that I'm saying his name correctly. Professor X's performance in here is really damn good. And it is enough to kind of keep me going throughout this. But everyone else's performance in here, like even Sam Jackson. Sam Jackson, the guy who has always shown up to work, you can tell this is not his fault. You can tell. It's not like Bruce Willis, where Bruce Willis just didn't want to, like, do any of this. You can tell that Sam Jackson was doing exactly what he was told to do in here. And M. Night Shyamalan just didn't know what to tell him to do. So, yeah, man, it is really just a flat movie that is uninteresting and really just has no idea what it is doing with any of this. And the most insulting bit of this is, like I said, it starts off pretty darn well, and you have the big showdown between the Horde and the Overseer, which I hate calling him that, but the two of them go head to head, and I was like, it's actually pretty good. Oh man, this is kind of what I wanted to see. It's right there at the beginning. What's going to happen later on? When the Horde actually breaks out, you see this in the trailer. This is not a spoiler, but when Glass gets the Horde to break out, and they team up, all so that he can go and fight David, I was just like, this is awful. This is really like the big final showdown. This is terrible. It's stunning to me that you had a smaller showdown that felt so much better than the actual big thing this was all leading up to. And part of it is because towards the end of this, you just have like one shift happening right after another. Like, well, now they're doing this. Now they're doing that. Now they're doing this thing. Now this thing is happening here. And you kind of just like, well, now it's just a series of events. Like, it no longer feels like something all leading up to a climax. It just feels like, well, what's the next part of this storyline going to be? All right, I'm not kidding you. I literally spent the last 40 minutes of this movie, like, sitting like this, because I was just so done. I was just out of it. I just did not care for this thing anymore at all. And the worst part of all of this, is that it's an M. Night film, so there's going to be a twist. Mm-hmm. But there's a twist.
Yeah.
Then another twist. Then another twist. And then another twist. And every twist makes it worse. Every twist makes this ending worse and worse and worse. And we will save it for the spoiler part. For anybody out there who doesn't want me to talk about this, we will save it for the spoiler part. But I will say, spoiler free here, I will say, the first twist makes 0 sense because it's in reference to nothing. Like, I looked at it and I was like, I guess it's this thing from Split. Because I didn't see Split, so it has to be a thing from Split. So, okay, I guess that's like a big important thing, but it's kind of weird that it's just coming up now, but alright, whatever. Then there is another twist, like 5 minutes after that has to do with another character in here that links back to that first twist that happened 5 minutes ago. So it has no weight to it at all because it wasn't built up or established at all in this until 5 minutes. Not even 5 minutes. I am exaggerating. It is like 2.5 minutes at most. So this big like dun dun dun. It's like, no, you didn't have time to build up to that third done. It's just done. That is it.
We are done.
Yes, it's just just gasp. Wait, what was that thing over there? All right, I guess it's part of that thing. And then there's another twist after that, and then there is the final twist. And again, I will say what the exact twists are, but the final twist of this whole thing, it really is just it's this thing that's supposed to change the world, and it's like, that would not change the world. I'm sorry, it really wouldn't. This whole thing that this was leading up to, it would not, that wouldn't even trend on Twitter for more than like 2 hours. Like, no one would talk about this. This would not change anything at all. So I just looked at this like, wow, if that is not the embodiment of this entire film, something that they thought was so much more important and bigger than it actually was. So yeah, I'm giving this thing a 3, because it did have a pretty decent beginning to it. And M. Night, honestly, despite his many, many problems, the dude can still frame a shot. There are some decent looking shots in this thing. I gotta give him some credit on that. I will admit, I kind of got tired of the little like violin like you know, that sound that you hear in every horror film these days. The like just slowly plucking that one string. Like, I kind of got a little bit tired of that after a point. But it was still effective at times in here. Although I will say there were like trailers for about 3 or 4 other horror films before this one. So that might have hurt it too, because every single one of them had the link in there. Even like Jordan Peele's new film, there's a moment where you get the link in there. I was like, oh, Jordan, no.
Well, maybe it was just for the trailer.
It's just for the... In all honesty, here's the thing. No, they had the one in the Jordan Peele's Us trailer, but then after that is a creepy rendition of that, I got 5 on. I was like, oh my god, that is more horrifying than any of these violin, like, twinks. I was really darn impressed with that trailer. I cannot wait for that movie.
Yeah, that actually looks good.
I kind of don't want to see that, because the trailer for this thing just creeped me the fudge out. But let's finish talking about this. I give it a 3 because, yeah, the beginning of this is pretty decent. James McAvoy actually is really damn good in this. And there are some shots that are pretty decent in here. But, man, this thing is This thing is $1 short and a day late if I've ever seen it. Man, and again, there's one other thing that I gotta point out here. Like I said, in the first film, Glass, his whole thing was like, okay, well, I think that comic books might have been inspired by people like you who could have actually had these abilities. Okay, that's cool. In this, it goes into like a whole like, no, there's a conspiracy about how the comics are the actual truth of things. It was like, oh, dude, no. You had like a nice semi-realistic thing in the last one, and you just went way too far with it and way too stupid. And there was a moment in which it's probably the worst line. No, the limited edition line is the worst line. But
the second worst?
No, that's probably the teen TV show. The third worst line in this entire thing is when the survivor of the Horde, she's there trying to convince them to let the Horde out of here. And she is trying to convince them that comic books could be a real thing. And she goes, did you know that when the first Superman was invented, he couldn't even fly? And it wasn't Metropolis, it was New York City? You can't explain all these coincidences. What?
What coincidences?
What? Yeah! It's like, yeah, you can. Someone just based a guy in an actual city. And like, so he couldn't fly. And? What the fuck is that?
So lots of people can't fly. Like,
so every superhero that can't fly is real now? I mean, what they were trying to say is that it's like the first Superman was an actual real thing because like he could actually like, he just jumped very large distances because he just had super strength. I was like, well, that's a weird thing. So how is that weirder than flight? And also, he could also do other crazy shit in there too. And also, what does that have to... So because the first Superman couldn't fly, that means he was a real person? That's actually where they want you to take the logic of this thing. And it feels like they're trying to like turn to the audience and make them second guess whether or not this could all be true. It's like, yeah, man, did you know this is a real fact here? The first Superman could not fly. So what if he was real? Like they have the fucking guts to try and like mess with your sense of reality with that being all they have. Yeah, this movie's terrible. But let's get into the twist. So they're having the big knockdown drag out fight, which looks awful. It just looks like normal people punching each other. Like these people are supposed to have superhuman abilities, and there's a moment in which you see like 3 cops pushing against James McAvoy, and James McAvoy is slowly pushing them back. And it's like, okay, that just means he's a really strong guy. I've seen a normal, really strong guy push down 3 other strong people before. Like, that's not superhuman abilities there. But they have a fight, and then you see James McAvoy get shot. And then you see, like, the hand from one of the cops that's holding it has, like, this 3-clove clover tattoo on his wrist. And I looked at that and I was just like, that's got to be a thing from Split, because I don't know what that's in reference to. And you're presenting it to me like I have to know what it's in reference to. Like they're presenting it like, gasp, it's this thing. It's like, I've never seen that up until, what? That has not been a thing up until now, unless it was in Split. So I'm gonna give you some space on that one, because it might have been a thing in Split. But then there is a moment in which that guy then goes over to Bruce Willis' character, and Bruce Willis' one weakness is water. Like, he gets weak if he gets wet, which, it's weird that is a trend in, what's-his-face, in
M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night's films. Because it was also in the Mel Gibson film, which, in all fairness, that one, it was like a demon thing, and it was holy water that did it, but I'm sorry, you didn't explain that well enough in your film. We can't really take that leap. But then also Lady in the Water. It's like, yeah, this is just a thing
and like
with you.
Science, no wait, that was wood. Like
no, Science was the one with water.
Water and wood, apparently, so
but so this guy is drowning.
Maybe
Bruce
M.
Willis,
Night just like has a terrible fear of water.
he just can't swim, I guess. But like Bruce Willis is being drowned in this puddle, and then the doctor comes over and goes, "Take my hand, David, take my hand." And he takes her hand, and because he has that special power, he then all of a sudden sees her at like this fancy dinner place, and these 2 people leave the fancy dinner place, then everyone gets quiet in an instant, and she stands up and is like, "It is our duty to try and make sure that these people are kept a secret at all times." So it's like, apparently she believes in them. Like, she was like faking this whole like, no, you have a mental condition. She was trying to convince them that they're not real. And then you see she has the 3-clove tattoo on her hand as well. And like, so this twist only means anything based on a thing that just got introduced 2 minutes before it. That's not a twist. That is not build-up.
So it's like she part of like a league that's supposed to
She
like
is
keep,
part of a secret organization that's been keeping superpowered people a secret this entire time. So that is it's like, all right, that's not good, but whatever, it's done. It's done. Just be done with this. It then cuts to her going to a comic book store. And she is flipping through comics, and there's two like just typical like just cookie cutter nerds back there like, no, you don't understand. The mastermind always has a second plan. Everybody always looks at the first plan, but the mastermind always has a second plan that no one ever thinks about. And then she goes, oh, I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding you. And then she runs back to the prison. And then, not the prison, but the mental institution. She goes, so the security cams, we wiped all of them, right? Yes, we wiped them all. What, did anything happen before we wiped them? Oh my goodness, I don't believe this, but it all got sent to a streaming service somewhere.
How? What?
Glass did that.
Oh,
we actually did
okay.
see him go to the computers at one point while the fight was happening and start tapping a bunch of stuff down.
Okay.
There's another twist in here. Kevin, the whole reason he developed multiple personalities is because his mom beat him as a kid because she had a mental problem. And the dad, who was trying to get them help, died in a train crash. It was the same train that
Bruce Willis was in the first movie.
In the first movie, which if you saw that movie, you know that was all arranged by Mr. Glass, because Mr. Glass has been trying to find these superpowered individuals, so he's been causing giant accidents all over the world to see who could possibly survive it. So that was the big twist there at the end of that one, which was actually a really damn good twist. So it gets revealed that, the reason why the Horde exists in the first place is because Mr. Glass killed his dad. So that's the thing. All right. That's kind of weak, but whatever. But then we get the Clover thing. Then we get, like, she's part of a secret organization. Then she finds out that he sent all this for some streaming service. And then Glass's mom, Bruce Willis' son, and the Horde survivor, they all team up. And they find these videos, which get sent to each of them, and they upload onto the internet, and then you see them there at, like, this big bus station, or train station, and they're going, how long has it been? Which, by the way, the portrayal of the mother is awful in this. The portrayal of the mother is so terrible in here, because it is the most, like, typical, like, use, and I don't want to go into any more details about it, but man, it is really just kind of offensive how she's portrayed in this. But she's like, how long has it been? It's like, it's been about 2 hours. Oh, I don't know if this was the right thing to, how do we know if it's even gonna work? And then you just hear, bleep, bleep. And then you look over and you see two people on the phone, it's like, oh man, blah, blah, blah. Like you don't even hear what they're saying, but they're just going, and then they're like, oh. And then you see another person on their tablet. And then you see another person just walking around looking at their phone. And it's supposed to be everyone is looking at this stuff, but it's like
they could be looking at anything. Like
it literally just looks like if you go to any train station, like if I go to Port Authority bus terminal right now, it's going to be nothing but people doing this. Nothing but people just, oh hey, look at this thing.
Yeah, Grand Central even like.
Go to any of them. Go to like man, I will take you on a tour of this thing. I will take you down just my block. And you will just see random people out there just walking around looking on their phone. It's just what we do these days.
Yeah.
We just look at our phones. That's just the thing. Like, oh my God, that guy's reading a tablet. He must be looking at the story we upload. No, he's just looking at a tablet. That is it. And like, it's supposed to be, I think her last words in the phone are like, this is the start of something new. This is the start of a new world. And all I could think was, the video footage you have is of this one guy running around like he's an animal just snorting and yelling, and then he shoves 3 people over, and then he shoves Bruce Willis into this other thing, and then you see like Bruce Willis bend a steel bar at one point, and also you see James McAvoy flip a car over. That's pretty impressive, but it's like, oh wow, I guess that guy was really juiced up on some steroids.
Like, either that or, like, I could just, like, imagine, like, YouTube saying, this is all fake.
Dude,
like,
the first 20 comments are fake. Fake, 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 fake. This would not, like, I looked at the footage. You see what it looks like on the security cameras. This is not impressive. The most impressive thing is James McAvoy, like, lifting up the car. That's it. Like, Bruce Willis bending the steel bar. You don't know if that's actually steel. You don't know. That could be a fake prop. And also, I've actually seen some really muscular dudes, like, actually bend steel before. Like, not, like, to the limits he is, but, like, little tiny bits. And it's like, okay, that's not really that impressive of a thing. And, oh my goodness, they're taking out all these police officers. They shoved 3 of them to the ground. Again, that's just a really strong dude. This is not the world is changing here. And there is a moment in which Glass says, a lot of people are going to die unless you stop him, David. David, so far you've only been using 1% of your powers because those people who you fight aren't worth your time. But this person is worth it. You're going to have to use everything. So I was like, oh man, is he going to like actually like start flying? Is he going to be bulletproof or something at this point? Are we going to see him do like some really impressive stuff? No! We just see them like shoving each other in the cars back and back. And I was like, this would be on bum fights. That's what this would be. Like, this would not break the internet. People would look at this and go, wow, that's kind of actually some kind of cool effects. Like it kind of looks real, I guess. Oh, man, that one guy was strong enough that if he really grunted and tried hard, he lifted a car. Like, didn't lift over his head, just flipped over, and he is going,
yeah, like, have you ever seen, like, those Muscle Man, like, tournaments?
I
Like,
used to watch those things all the time when I was a kid. They did crazy shit all the time.
Yeah, it's like...
Flipping a car is more impressive than anything they did. But he is grunting and struggling. If he had just been like, raw, and like it just like went aside, I was like, shit, man, yeah, oh man, no one could do that. Instead, I would look at this like, wow, guess that guy was really juiced up on some roids. I could maybe see somebody actually being able to do something like that. And like there's a moment in which like they get footage of him climbing on the walls. And it's like, that's just camera tricks, brother. That's just camera tricks. All that is. Like that can be explained easily. Like every single thing that you showed in there is either cheap enough that you could explain that it's just a special effect or a camera effect. None of this is actually impressive. This would not change the world. This would be gone in a matter of hours. Mm-hmm. Nobody would talk about this after a day. It's not impressive in any way. It really is like, again, it's what this movie is. They think that it's a big thing that's going to change the world. And no, man, no one cares.
If anything, people would just, like, make memes out of it. Like...
Dude! Man, people would make memes out of, like, you know, Jim McAvoy, like, lifting that car real hard. It's like, man, when you have, like, 3 bean burritos from Taco Bell the next morning. Like, yeah, you just see that, like, all over the internet. When we saw Love, Simon this year, and, like, that kid got roasted and that got turned into a meme, it's like, that would last longer than what we saw at the end of this movie. Yeah, this is a pathetic film. It really is. And I hate using that word because it's a very mean-spirited word in there. And M. Night, he gets a lot of hate, man, but one of the reasons M. Night kind of gets a lot of hate is because the guy does kind of a big ego. He thinks that his films are going to be massive and groundbreaking. It's like, dude, no. It's like, if I sense, like, more genuine, like, hey, man, I'm just going to try with this and just see what I do. If I could sense more of that in what you do, I would have way more heart for you on this. But everything he does have, like, this sense of, like, I'm the best. And, I mean, dude, there was a time in which you made a film in which you yourself played a writer.
Yes. Who would change the world.
We're going to save the world, but only if you were willing to sacrifice yourself to make the world better. And in that film, a film critic is brutally murdered.
Yes.
It's like, fuck you, man. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Like, I want to root for you to make a comeback. But I thought that you eating shit for a couple of years would be enough to, like, get you back on track. And, hey, man, you kind of started directing other people's films that weren't your own work. So it's like, okay, well, maybe that's going to be a better thing for you. So maybe you'll learn on that. And you went to really low-budget Blumhouse stuff. So, okay, you kind of took some hits on that. But, again, this comes back around. And the entire tone of this film is like, I'm going to blow your mind with this revelation. Did you know the first Superman didn't fly? Who gives a shit? Dude, who cares about any of this? And then you just constantly keep talking about stuff that doesn't, like, that clearly makes it feel like you don't know what you're talking about. Hey, Peach. Peach is here.
Yay!
Yay. Let's end on Peach, everyone.
Yay!
All right, so thanks for tuning in, everyone. We got another real surprise review coming up in a little bit, in which we are also going to be reviewing the new Dragon Ball movie, everyone.
Which is more of a superhero movie than this was.
The movie about a giant ape man screaming for 40 minutes straight had better characters, a better arc, better development, a better story, a better ending, more emotions than anything in this film. I mean, I will give him credit that he actually killed off like this beloved character he created 19 years ago that we'd all been waiting to see again. I give him some credit that he actually did that, but that was actually a bold move on his part and was unexpected, but his death really meant nothing. It was kind of pathetic. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
I'm Peach.
Yes.
By the way, if a parody of me pops up in the next M. Night film, M. Night, have me play him. I'll make fun of myself 100%. Like, that would just be incredibly fun and goofy. Listen, I can laugh at myself. Unlike some people. Bye, everyone.
Bye.